In 350 A.D., 2 copies of the Alexandrian Bible were made, and those copies are called the Sinaiticus because it was found in the Sinai desert in a monastery, and Vaticanus because it was found in the Vatican Library in the basement, I believe. Those 2 copies from 350 A.D. are still around today. You know, 1,600 years old copies of the Scriptures, well, of the Alexandrian Bible. The Latin Vulgate was made from those manuscripts in 380 A.D. It was translated to Latin. Then in 1582, the Catholic Church ordered the translation of the Latin Vulgate into English, and that's where the Douay Confraternity and the Douay Rheims version come in. The Douay versions were made from the Latin, which was a good translation of the wrong manuscript. They're translating the Alexandrian. So they got the bad manuscript, the corrupt, cult manuscript, being translated into English, which became the official Catholic version in use today, the Douay version of the Bible. 2 guys named Westcott and Hort came along in 1875, and they took these Alexandrian manuscripts, of which I think about 15 or 17 of them were found, I don't know, and they said, these are old manuscripts, therefore they're better. Well, now hold on a minute. Yes, they're older, but that doesn't mean they're better. They're older because they're worse. The people didn't use them. They didn't wear them out. But they made a modern Greek version of the Bible from this ancient one. They put it on new paper, new ink, and made a new Greek edition in 1875. This was then translated into English, at least the New Testament in Greek. And so the English translations of the of the Westcott and Hort text include the Revised Version done in 1881, the American Standard Version done in 1901, the Revised Standard in 1946, and that's the Bible I got saved from, the New World Translation, Jehovah's Witness Bible, made in 1950, the New American Standard Bible, made in 1960, the Good News Bible, the Amplified Bible, the Living Bible, and the NIV. All of those are good translations of the wrong manuscript. So I don't fault the translators. I think they're probably sincere men, probably intelligent men, but they're translating the wrong book. They need to get the right Bible. The first mention of Alexandria is in Acts chapter 9 when they were disputing with Stephen, arguing with the Christians. And we still got the same thing today with these different versions of the Bible, arguing with the real Bible. Okay, my Jehovah's Witness Bible on my shelf will probably never get worn out. It doesn't mean it's better, it just means I'm not going to use it. Okay, I have one, I have a Mormon Bible, I'm not going to use it. So that's the story. There are more manuscripts of the Bible than any other book ever written in ancient times. Homer's Iliad, for instance, there are only 643 manuscripts known today. By 1946, they discovered 24,000 manuscripts of the Bible. Then when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1947, they now have 40,000 new manuscripts to work from. So the Dead Sea Scrolls made it up to the total now of 64,000 manuscripts of Scripture. The Isaiah scroll is 1,000 years older than any known manuscript anywhere in the world. And it matches exactly the Textus Receptus, the King James. I recommend you get the book New Age Bible Versions. You can order it from my ministry, or go to avpublications.com if this topic interests you, about studying different Bible versions. And we could spend hours about that one, but that's enough. Next question. What is God like anyway? Man is a three-dimensional person. What's God like? Well, a friend of mine came to me one day when I spoke in Mobile, Alabama, and he said, "Hey, Brother Hovind, let's go get some ice cream at McDonald's or something after you're done." I said, "That'd be great, brother." We went to McDonald's, we're sitting here at the table, and he took 2 pieces of paper out, and he wrote on one Mr. Flat, and on the other one he wrote Mrs. Flat. He said, "Kent, let me show you something interesting here." He said, "You taught geometry, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I want you to imagine we got 2 people here, Mr. Flat and Mrs. Flat, and they live in flatland. They live in a plane, a 2-dimensional world. They have no concept whatsoever of the 3rd dimension. They're totally flat." I said, "Okay." I said, "Now, suppose you, as a 3-dimensional person, would like to get them to know you. But they have no concept of you because you live in a 3rd dimension." I said, "Okay, I got you." He said, "Now, you can't put a 3-dimensional being into 2 dimensions. It just simply won't work. Mr. Flat actually sees Mrs. Flat as a straight line. He only sees 1 dimension. He perceives the 2nd dimension. He can walk around and figure out she's a rectangle, but he actually only sees a straight line when he sees her." I said, "Okay, I got you." He said, "Now, you and I can see 2 dimensions. We see the width and the height, but we perceive the depth. You can't really see depth. You can understand depth because you have 2 eyes looking at this thing, and you get what's called depth perception." I said, "I got it. But actually, you could take a photograph of what you're looking at and it would still look the same. You would perceive the depth because of our common experience, but you can't really see depth. I said, I got it. He said, now suppose you want to introduce yourself to Mr. Flat and Mrs. Flat. So you stick your finger through the table, and Mr. Flat comes over and looks at it and says, oh, I see a circle, the cross-section of your finger. Over here you stick 3 fingers through the table, and Mrs. Flat comes and looks at him and says, oh, honey, I've seen Kent Hovind. He's 3 circles. Mr. Flat says, no, honey, he's 1 circle. And they're going to fight for a while and argue, and finally they're going to split the church and start the church of the 3 circles and the church of the 1 circles. But the fact is, neither one of them has a clue what I'm like. You simply can't put a 3-dimensional being into 2 dimensions. They're not going to ever get it. Well, if you read Ephesians chapter 3, it says that we may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the length and depth and breadth and height. The length and depth and breadth and height. There's 4 dimensions. I think there's an awful lot more to God than we can possibly comprehend in our little 3-dimensional world. Just like Mr. Flat and Mrs. Flat are not going to get it about a 3-dimensional person, I don't think we 3-dimensional persons are ever going to get it to understand God. But when we get to heaven, we shall see Him, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. Then we're going to say, oh, now I understand. And there are these guys going around saying God has 10 dimensions. I think that's heresy. God is infinite. He's not limited by anything whatsoever. He is absolutely God. By definition, it would have to be not limited by time, space, or matter. Next question. What about the races? Where do they come from? Well, there's no question there's a lot of different looking people on this planet. Black ones and white ones and yellow ones and tall ones and little ones, etc. But there really aren't any races. There are skin colors. There's only one race. It's called the human race. Would you say these are different races of cows? No, they're just different skin colors. Okay, and I can assure you they all look the same in the meat locker, and they all taste the same on the hamburger. Okay, they're just different skin colors, that's all. There are 4 theories of where the races come from. I don't know which is true. I suspect I do, but I'll just give you the 4 theories and tell you what I believe. One theory says Adam and Eve are medium brown, and they produced all the races, all the colors in their own children. Could be true. There's an albino, 3 albino children born to a black couple. It's just an interesting bit of trivia here. The second theory, which I do not believe, it says the Lord put a mark on Cain in Genesis chapter 4, lest any finding him should kill him. And they say Cain became a black person. I don't buy this for 1 second, but a lot of churches do. The Mormon church teaches that the Negroes are not equal with other races. This is what the Mormon church teaches in their doctrine book here in 1966. They say it's the Lord's doing. It's based on His eternal laws of justice and grows out of a lack of spiritual valiance of those concerned in their first estate. Lack of spiritual valiance. What do they mean here? Well, I had a couple Mormon missionaries knock on my door one time, and they said, Mr. Hovind, we'd like to talk to you about the Lord. I said, that'd be great, fellas. Which Lord would you like to talk about, yours or mine? They said, oh, we serve the same God. I said, no, fellas, I'm sorry. We serve a different God. I said, let me show you here. Does your God have a body like mine? They said, yep, we believe He does. I said, okay, my Bible says God's a spirit, and they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. I said, does your God live on the planet Kolob, K-O-L-O-B? They said, yeah, we believe He does. I said, well, my Bible says God is all places. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere. He's not living on a planet. He's every place at the same time. That's God. I said, does your God have thousands of wives? I said, yeah, we believe He does. I said, does your God have normal physical relations with those wives and produce spirit children up in heaven? They said, yeah, we believe He does. I said, now, does your God produce the spirit in heaven, and the human couple on earth only produces the body? Is that what you guys teach? They said, yeah, that's correct. I said, now, if the spirit baby in heaven is a valiant spirit baby, if it's a good spirit baby, when it comes to earth, it gets a white-skinned body. But if it's a bad spirit baby, it gets a black-skinned body. Is that what you believe? They said, well, you're not supposed to know that, but yeah, that is what we teach. I said, fellas, I know you got the little tag on that says elder, even though you're 17. I said, I've been married, now it's been nearly 30 years. I said, I've got 3 children, grown, got grandchildren. I said, I taught biology and anatomy. I used to raise hamsters. I said, did you know there are 2 babies born on earth every second, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop? And your God supplies a spirit for each one. I said, when does He get time to answer your prayers? Of course, they knocked the dust off their feet, and they never came back. I don't know what happened.